Welcome to Understory Files. Every headline tells you what happened. But sometimes, the most disturbing part isn't the crime itself. It's the reasoning behind it. Because occasionally, the explanation doesn't make sense. Not logically, not emotionally. Not in any way that feels real. This story begins in Beloit, Wisconsin, a quiet residential area. The kind of place where mornings are routine, neighbors recognize each other, and life moves at a steady pace. Nothing about it suggests something unimaginable could happen inside one of its homes. But on March 20th, that illusion was broken. It didn't begin with police sirens, it began with a phone call. A call that would leave even experienced dispatchers struggling to process what they were hearing. On the other end of the line was a woman named Tyus Aninsky. She was 41 years old. And according to investigators, she calmly told the dispatcher something that immediately changed everything. She said she had murdered her daughter, not hours ago. The night before, there was no confusion in her voice. No hesitation. Just a statement, clear, direct, final. As the call continued, the details became even more disturbing. She told the dispatcher that after the incident, she had laid down next to her daughter. She had expected to die as well, but she didn't, and that's why she was calling. She asked for help, but not for her daughter. According to the complaint, when the dispatcher asked if an ambulance was needed, she responded with something chilling. "She's dead. She needs a hearse." In that moment, the reality of the situation became undeniable. This wasn't an emergency in progress. This was a crime that had already happened. And the person responsible was calmly describing it. Inside the home, authorities would later find the 14-year-old girl, a teenager, a daughter, a sister, someone whose life had ended before it had truly begun. Investigators reported that she had been found inside a room of the house she shared with her mother and grandfather. There were no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds, just silence and absence. For investigators, scenes like this are difficult, not just because of what happened, but because of what's missing. There were no signs she had tried to fight back. No indication she had time to understand what was happening. And that raises a question that often lingers in cases like this. Did she even know? As authorities continued their investigation, they began piecing together what had happened before the call. According to the complaint, Aninsky told dispatchers that she had taken a knife and attacked her daughter. Afterward, she reportedly used the same weapon to harm herself in what she described as an attempt to end her own life. But she survived, and that survival led to the call that brought everything to light. When officers arrived, they found the situation exactly as she had described. Evidence inside the home confirmed that the event had taken place hours earlier. At the same time, another detail began to emerge. A detail that shifted the case from tragic to deeply unsettling. When asked why she had done it, Aninsky gave an explanation. She said she had done it to protect her daughter. At first, that statement alone raises questions. Protect her from what? Protect her from whom? But what came next made the situation even more difficult to understand. She claimed she was protecting her daughter from Elon Musk. There was no evidence suggesting any connection. No known contact, no prior relationship, nothing that would explain why she believed her daughter was in danger. And yet, according to investigators, she spoke about it as if it were real, as if it were something she truly believed. Cases like this force investigators into a different kind of analysis. Because sometimes the most important question isn't just what happened. It's what someone believed was happening. As the investigation continued, toxicology reports revealed another layer. According to authorities, Aninsky had multiple substances in her system at the time, including benzodiazepines, amphetamines, and THC. While toxicology results can provide context, they don't provide answers. They don't explain intent. They don't explain belief. They don't explain how a situation reaches this point, but they do become part of the larger picture. A picture investigators must carefully reconstruct. Meanwhile, another detail from the case added to the disturbing nature of the situation. When Aninsky arrived at the hospital, authorities say she asked something unexpected. She asked if her name was already in the news, and when she was told it wasn't, she appeared disappointed. That reaction raised further questions, because in moments like this, most people focus on survival, confusion, or fear, but this response suggested something else entirely, something harder to define. For the family, the situation was devastating. The girl's grandfather, who also lived in the home, reportedly had no idea what had happened. He believed his granddaughter was at school. That moment, realizing that something unimaginable had happened inside his own home, is something no family is prepared for. And beyond the immediate family, the impact spread outward. Friends, community members, classmates all left trying to understand something that doesn't easily make sense. A 14-year-old life, suddenly gone, in a way no one could have predicted. As the legal process began, authorities charged Aninsky with first-degree intentional homicide. She was taken into custody and held on a significant bond. Court proceedings are now part of the next phase of the story. But for many, the legal outcome is only one part of what matters. Because cases like this leave something behind. Questions about mental state, about warning signs, about whether anything could have been done differently, and about how situations like this develop. There's also another layer to this story, one that often doesn't get enough attention: the people left behind, in this case a brother. A young man who lost his sister in a way that no one should ever have to experience. Family members and supporters created a fundraiser to help with funeral costs and to support him through what can only be described as overwhelming grief. Because beyond headlines and investigations, there are real lives affected. Real people trying to process something that doesn't have a simple explanation. This story isn't just about what happened inside one home. It's about how fragile normal life can be, how quickly it can change, and how sometimes the most difficult part isn't understanding the crime. It's understanding the reasoning behind it. Because when the explanation itself doesn't make sense, it leaves a different kind of impact, one that stays with you, one that forces you to think not just about the event, but about the human mind, about perception, about reality, and about how those lines can sometimes blur in ways that lead to tragedy. This is Understory Files, and beneath every headline, there's always another layer. If you want more real stories that explore the deeper truth behind the news, subscribe to Understory Files, and we'll see you in the next story.